I don't know.
Oh, that's
What'd
a
it
new
say?
thing. I've never.
Hello. Recording in progress.
I got a warning on my screen saying there's a recording in progress. I've never had that before.
It's funny because I've got a full screen going here rather than usually it's like 3/4 screen with the bar with who's in the room and all that stuff. So aren't we fancy?
We're so fancy now.
My name's Tom Wise.
And I'm Melinda McKinsey. You're going to unpack some shit with us today. And we're only going to talk about funny, hilarious things.
First of all, let's apologize for missing Friday. It's not my bad. It was turned out to be a travel day. We stayed an extra day at Amelia Island.
Good for you, sir. You are excused. Amelia Island.
Everybody was drinking like crazy Thursday. We were supposed to leave Thursday at 6.
Oh.
We're not going. We're playing pool. It was out of control.
Great thing about vacations, though, you can really do those kinds of things and just relax. That's so nice.
It's nice. My niece is so sweet. She was there, and her boyfriend's nuts. He's fun, and my brother and his wife, and then my sister. We all travel together.
Yeah.
Looks like I got a Connie Stevens light or something going on here.
Oh, really?
I mean, it seems very soft light. I don't know why.
I don't know. Is it because I look particularly bad? I've had a rough weekend. So you're like, oh.
You look great. I got the place cleaned up because I had a show this morning. So I got all the shit. It's like that. Ever see that cartoon, The Zoom Call? And they do a top-down view of the room. Crap. Just a little V shape.
Right. Yes. Well, good. What did you sell this morning?
I had the light. I love that little light, that LED light.
Oh, that's
Let me see.
good.
Well, let me show you the demo.
Show everybody the light. So we know if we want to go to hsn.com and make a purchase. What's it called?
Sunblast.
Sunblast.
So this thing sticks to the wall of your house.
Okay.
Shitload of LED lights. Here's my demo. I have this little flap. This represents nighttime.
Okay.
And this represents motion.
Oh, very nice.
That's
very nice. And so it's like a portable light. Where are you recommending people put them?
Well, you'd put it over the garage. So as you pull in, the light goes on. Put one over the door, pull in, light goes on.
No, it's nice. Now it's lighting up your couch very nicely.
It's like, hey, look at this. Back in the old days, you had to get this.
Nobody wants that. Did you do the demo where you throw the old stuff in the air and go, no one wants that?
There's got to be a better way.
There's got to be.
No. Yeah, everybody's got this in the garage. I bought something like this when I lived at the ranch. I never installed it. Who's going to install all this nonsense?
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. Well, and how did it go? Did it go very well?
Well, they never tell me the numbers. It's a what's it, kind of a passive aggressive, lazy. They don't have to tell me the numbers. They don't. I'm just a hired gun.
It's
but the producer, as the clock was winding down, as they were short timing me, they go, "Hey, this is selling." It always sells. It always sells.
You know, this morning I had a segment with a tooth whitener with a new station, but it was a radio bit, not right.
We'll be doing magic on radio next.
So it's funny because I'm used to doing this. Everything's visual.
Yeah.
So the lazy part of me said, Melinda, you don't have to take a shower. And I panicked because I thought, what if something happens? I know it's radio, but if they say, turn on your Zoom, it would have been a nightmare. So I fully made up because, I wanted to be like in that zone. So I'm feeling very confident. I love radio. We're talking. What's one thing you don't want to happen when you're doing a radio bit?
Outside of a bad connection?
Yeah, outside of a bad connection. Something that would happen to you personally.
Your phone rings?
Frog in the throat.
What are we playing? Concentration? Flip over the cards and determine what the classic saying is.
We were talking and I felt fine. You know how you can always feel a sneeze coming on or something if you're on air and you fight it? Well, I didn't even feel it. I'm talking and suddenly I'm talking like this. What the? Is this where I'm at in life now? Where my voice just goes? So I don't know on their end if it was a disaster or not, because of course you don't want to clear your throat on a radio bit. So I was just trying to go through it and act like, maybe I'm just a heavy smoker, guys,
Deal with it.
So I guess I'll hear later how it goes. Because what can you do at that point? You have to laugh it off and just act like you're fine with all of it.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. There used to be a cough button at home shopping. So if you needed to sneeze or cough, there was a little button. Well, it turned out because back in the old days, the hosts would pretty much run the show. It's not the case today. The producer runs the show. The host is their job is to sell, blah, 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 blah. But it turned out to be we had some classic, you could imagine the characters that would roll through that home shopping business. I'm not going to mention any names, but guys that would come in. This is the personality of that type of person, big personality, alpha, ego, wouldn't prepare for the show.
Yeah.
I'm rolling in, I'm coming in hot, sitting down, someone else, they've done the minimum, whatever. And now they want to produce the show from the chair. We want to produce the show live from the chair, leaning on the cough button. Yeah, bring up 17. It's like, yeah, no longer as an emergency to, I'm having a cough. Now I'm leaning on the cough button and I'm directing the show from the chair with the cough button on.
Oh my gosh.
And people are like, what's going on over there?
What is that?
A lot of dead air.
What's like the worst thing that's happened to you during a live segment? Can you think of something where you're like, man, I could have lived without that? Because I definitely had some moments where I was like, yeah, that should have never happened to me.
Well, I don't mind laughing at stuff. I remember classically, it must have been 1988.
Okay.
So it's way back there.
Yeah.
89, 88. Harold Becker and I, because back in the old days, I mean, I don't know, everybody knows this. I was a home shopping host for 10 years, 87 to 97, 3 years though I was in management in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So in the early days, you would just sit at a table, not pretty much like this, with a stick mic coming up here, and just do the whole show. You'd never get up. It was just, they had two carousels, like A and B, and they'd switch the products A and B, and they'd just go to A and B, and then come back to you every now and again and taking a phone call. Nobody's doing anything. There's no B-roll. You had a box.
Wow.
It was the big deal was put a piece of jewelry on a mirrored turntable, and then it would just spin around, be like hypnotic, or they'd put jewelry on a neck, like a form, and then they would massage it with a knitting needle. So it would go up and down, catch sparks, stuff.
Oh yeah.
So at some point they said, okay, we want you to try to interact with the product. It come up with, if it makes sense. If it makes sense, find something to interact with the product if it makes sense.
Okay.
And nothing is wireless. You want to move somewhere. You're dragging this cord, this cable, this wired mic, and this wired earpiece. You balance back. So Harold Becker, do you know Harold?
I don't think so. No.
Harold has turned out to be a long-term friend of mine. Harold I've known for over 30 years plus, 35 years. So we see that there's this Black & Decker electric screw gun, not a screw, like more or less screwdriver, electric screwdriver, not a power reel, but it's electric. Okay, we're gonna do a demonstration. We're gonna be screwing two screws in a board live. Seems simple enough.
It does.
Did you ever see The Honeymooners, Art Carney and Jackie Gleason?
Of course, yes.
And they had a particular segment where Jackie Gleason was the chef of the future and Art Carney was the chef of the past. It's very specific.
Okay.
Yeah. And, Gleason can't get his thing to work and Art Carney's just peeling potatoes like crazy where Gleason's the chef of the future. It's the same way with me. They hand me the electric screwdriver and Harold is next to me. This is live.
Yeah.
And we're yada, 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 yada. Make your life a dream. I go to turn it on and use it. It's not charged up. There's no power to this thing. Harold is furiously just screwing the thing in like it's a real race.
Yeah.
not like it's a setup. I have to win this, Harold. We're selling
Yes.
Black and Decker.
Right.
And now I'm like desperate. So I'm using the electric screwdriver and I'm turning it manually.
Oh.
I'm dying. And then back in those days, we had windows to leave. You can, 7 minutes outside the top of the hour, you can take a break. You didn't have to wait till the exact top of the hour.
Okay.
So the second we leaked into that window, I was out. All
Yeah.
right, we'll be back in a few minutes. We'll see you on the other side. And then I come back and I'm back at the desk. We've forgotten all about that nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm back at the desk. And we used to take a lot of phone calls. We used to take about 18 calls an hour.
That's crazy.
I get to the first item. I just wanted to get on with life.
Yes.
It was a ring or something. Take a phone call. The woman is still laughing. She goes, "That's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life." That was great.
No,
that was fun.
The thing I've always said, it would be so fun to reenact some of the things to do a show of behind the scenes at HSN, because when we're on air, we seem very calm and relaxed and we're like, here you go. And what they don't know is 10 seconds before I was running down the hall with a table because, this or that has happened. There's a lot of fury that goes on.
Of course.
Before we go on air.
It's crazy.
One of the funniest things that happened to me was I was doing a show with, I was at the end of the hour with Shannon Smith, and I did a lot of wrap-ups during those days where they just had me selling a lot of different items. And Tony was on with, not with the Gazelle, but with like pillows and, all those extra things he was selling, right?
Shoes, pillows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had a whole setup, right? And with Tony, he always had a person with giant.
Tony Little.
Yeah, sorry. Tony Little for people that don't watch HSN.
Yeah, or can't read your mind. Go on.
Sorry. I always assume people can read my mind. And so Tony's very well known. He's got the long curly hair, the hat. He's got a very specific look, right? Everybody knows who Tony Little is. So Shannon is going to start what you can do it, right? Isn't
Gazelle, right?
Yeah, the Gazelle. So Shannon, who's hilarious, and I love her because Shannon Smith is very fun. You never know what she's going to do, but she's great. And you ride her wave. Shannon is always a superstar. So Tony was going to start at the top of the hour. And I don't know if you know this about Shannon, but she pees a lot. She has to pee a lot. And so I was supposed to wrap it at the end of the hour. I had a Conair toothbrush to end this beauty thing. I just happened to be there watching because I love Shannon and Tony. Sure. So, right, like, no kidding, less than a minute before air, Shannon goes, "How much time? I've got to pee." And she runs. And Tony's standing there, and the producer says, "Okay, Tony, you take it from the top." And Tony's like, "I don't know what to say." He totally panicked. Now, Tony has been on air forever and ever.
Yes.
But Tony has a thing he likes to do. And
you're the guest, not the host.
That's right. And
I'm the wall. You throw things against me, I bounce it back.
Yes.
I'm not the ball. I don't hit.
That's right. So I'm standing there laughing, thinking it has nothing to do with me because I'm on at the end of the hour. And the producer says, "Melinda, get on there, start talking to Tony." So Tony's terrified. Now, Tony knows me, but he also doesn't know what I'm going to say, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking, this is fantastic. I'm so excited. I don't know what we're going to do. We only need a couple of minutes before Shannon comes back. That's
of course.
We need. So
this is great.
No, it opens up. I just start talking to Tony, and the whole time Tony's just terrified. He doesn't know how to react. He just wants to read his cue cards. And so I just did a little banter with him, like, "Oh, how funny this is I just did the whole thing behind the scenes, life is crazy. Don't you love Shannon?" The whole thing. Before you knew it, Shannon came back on. She was laughing. Of course, then Tony was laughing, but then, time is money. He needed to get to his pillows.
Yeah, we're not here. Yeah, it's not the Tonight Show.
But then when the whole thing was over, I got to do my rap with the Conair, and then, Tony came up to me and he's like, "Man, I'm glad you were there." And I just remember thinking, "You don't need me. You're Tony Little." Like,
yeah.
Why? What were you worried about?
It's funny because even I, who was a host for 7 years, every now and again they'll say to me, "Hey, can you cover for 90 seconds while we're making a studio change. We're either going to throw to a commercial, or you can start the show for 90 seconds. Yeah. It's like, to do that, because the host is the net. You're running out of things to say, they step up. It's a little tennis game. So it can be a little disconcerting because they just assume you're going to say yes. And I do say yes, but it's like, this game just changed a little bit. You know, it's funny.
No, it really does. But so many funny things happen behind the scenes because things break. I was doing a Conair hair dryer and I'm talking about it. We're live. I go to dry the model's hair and nothing. So I just start flipping her hair and I was like, imagine the air. And so I'm laughing about it because I will never act like things are normal, right? No, that's the worst. It's the worst to act like it's okay. Laugh about it. I'm laughing saying, well, if it was, and I was going, oh, whoo, 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 and I was blowing on her hair. Somebody on the tech, production end comes running underneath my legs, plugging things in. And honestly, within 30 seconds, they had fixed it. But you know as well as I do, 30 seconds forever of a gap feels like a very long time. But I thought it was hilarious. So now when I watch shows, I truly appreciate the people that when things go wrong, they point it out, they laugh about it, because I enjoy it too. I'm more apt to buy something if I'm enjoying the show than if someone is so uncomfortable because things aren't going exactly the way they want them to go.
I concur 1,000%. Did you ever see that famous ladder incident with the shop up in Minneapolis?
Yes. It's funny because they always claim it's an HSN moment, and it's not. It's been used on air saying HSN horror stories or something like that, and it was not. And yeah, that was completely horrible. You should describe it for people that haven't seen it because it was horrifying.
It's funny. I forget what the guy's name was, but that was Colleen Lopez was the female that he was working with. Yes.
I don't even remember that. I just remember the crash.
It was Minneapolis in the mid 80s or something. This would have been around the 80s or something, because they were open. And it was one of those multi-use ladders. Turn it this way. Oh my, look at this.
Oh my. I
scratched the scab. So it had all these little multi things going on, and one of it was like the shape like an upside down U. It could go flat, and then you can use it like a scaffold, right?
Yes.
So the guy was going to get on it and demonstrate how it all locks in, click, click, click. So he gets on it, and then all of a sudden it clicks and it falls just a little bit, and he goes, you know what? That's how you know it's working, because you heard the click. And it's solid. So then he starts to go across it like a bridge, and then it collapses in the middle, and he falls off the thing. And nobody knew what the hell to do.
I hope he made money off of that, because I've seen that so much.
He didn't make shit.
They played it over and over. Did you also see the blooper where someone was selling like a color printer, and the rumors were that this person did it on purpose, where they were showing pictures of like horses or something, and they were claiming it was something else.
Yeah, the guy was high as a kite.
Is that what it was?
I'm guessing, because he said, look at the butterflies. It's a horse. It's not close to one another.
If you haven't seen it, just YouTube it, because it's
crazy, because you're looking at the guy calling it something else, and it's like, are you nuts?
Yeah.
And then how about the guy who famously cuts himself with a sword? Have you seen that?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that one.
Remember that? He had the Banshee sword, and he look, this thing's indestructible, and he smashes it on the table, and the tip of it hits him in the chest, or hits him in the eye, or hits him in the neck.
Yep, it bounces back.
Yeah. It was insane.
Yes. No, so many funny things. I was selling Martha Stewart once airbrushes, and she was having a sale, so I was going through a lot of product. And as most people do with a live show, I had a backup airbrush just in case.
Of course.
And Jared was my producer. And so we're ready to go. And he's a very fun producer to work with. And so I'm talking and I'm spraying. Of course, it's not working. So they pull the camera up. I see that. I grab another one. I keep talking. No big deal. They go back. It's not working. Okay. So Jared's like, he goes, just go to the next thing. Ignore it. Go to the next thing. It went against everything in my soul, because I would have rather acknowledged it, but he's the runner of the show. And if he says it's smarter, so I did. I set it down and I kept talking like it was very normal. And no one ever complained about it. And we sold the hell out of those. things and they didn't even work. This is why the producer is so very important, because they know what matters and what doesn't.
Because people are half paying attention. People don't watch. Nobody watches these shows with a scrutiny of, you know, a microscope. I mean, the other day I was selling the. This is funny how this shows turn into a home shopping remembrance. But the other day I'm selling a mosquito gathering device. You know, it collects mosquitoes. It's this very popular item.
Yeah.
And then part of it is that, you know, all the mosquitoes gather in the base of the cup, right? Yeah. And when I did the show, the person I was working for made a comment, says, you know, you never really opened that cup up and revealed, you know, a mass of mosquitoes. I'm like, well, I don't have a mass of mosquitoes. I can't, you know, I don't have them. And, right. You know, they just don't. I'm going to get 3 of them over the course of a week. There's just not mosquitoes around here. Right. So I checked on the local pet store. I went on Amazon. You know, maybe someone's got dried insects, dried something I can order for $7 or something and get it and then stick it there. Nothing. Everything looked like worms. Mosquitoes don't look like worms. You know, So I said to Patrick, I go, do you have any black spray paint? He goes, for what? I go, I'm going to take some of this oatmeal and put it on a paper towel, and I'm going to spray it and flip it and spray it and flip it and spray it. So I do that, and I get, you know, a nice amount, and I stick that sprayed oatmeal in the base of this cup. And then during the demonstration, I go, yeah, look at this. Everything gathers into this cup. Look at these, you know, all the stuff that this got here, the mosquitoes. And the host says, oh, that's disgusting. So she saw mosquitoes in her head when it was just dried sprayed oatmeal.
Of course. Well, you know what? You got to do that when you're trying to give a visual aids are so important when we do for our job, for people to see the possibility, the potential of what they're buying.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Almost like a magic trick. You say something, then you visually think about it.
I think the easiest show I ever did was I was working in crafting and I had gel pens and they were very popular. It was a great, just simply gel pens. That's it, right? So every time I would go on, it would sell out. And I could talk about gel pens all day, but also they're just gel pens. You know what I mean? They're gel pens.
You go dollar store, Walmart, they're all over the place.
Oh, quite honestly, yes. But there was like a lot of them for a low price. Yes. So I don't remember which host I was working with, but they said, look, we're not going to be on more than a couple minutes because these things are already selling out. So just do whatever you want, because we'll probably just have a few minutes and go to the next product. So I walked on air and I go, gel pens, and I threw them all up in the air. And then the host goes, and they just sold out. So it made it appear I had something to do with it, which I did not.
That's funny.
But it was hilarious. Yeah. It's really fun selling things on air. I know I talked to a lot of people that say they could never do it, but I'll tell you, if it is your gift, it's a super, super fun job to be able to, you know, I always feel like I have a connection with the audience, which clearly we are only looking at cameras. We don't have live. Have you ever done one of the live audience shows there?
No, I don't think they did. They did it at QVC. I don't know that Home Shopping ever did live audiences.
Well, I only saw them for like famous musicians. And,
right. Yeah. Home Shopping did that. They bring in a small crowd, but yeah, I never did those shows.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's super fun. Well, I teased the last time we were together, telling you all the scandalous stuff about Mr. Bob Ross.
Okay, let's have it.
Painter. So I did a lot of reading. I saw this article that said like sex, deceit, and lies, Bob Ross. And I was like, bullshit. You know, Bob Ross, we would have heard about it. It's not like he was a bad guy, but apparently before he became known as the Afro painter, he was in the military, like we had discussed on a previous show. And he was a very hard-living guy. They said he liked fast cars, fast women, and bourbon. Like that's what? Mr. Bob Ross. So what basically happened to him was he really liked painting. And there was a painter by the name of Bill Alexander that was very famous. He started taking classes from him. And Bill said, hey, I want to take you on the road. This is in the 70s. I want to take you on the road. We can make some money, teach a class, and sell all the art supplies. This is how I make my money. So Bob said to his wife, can we work this out? I'll travel for a little bit, make some money. Give me a year. If I don't make money in a year, okay, let's do it. Now, this was his second wife. I don't know. They never said what happened to his first wife, but he had a child with his first wife, who is now an adult man. This was his second wife. He died when he had his third wife. So he goes on the road, and you know as well as I do, when you start making a lot of money,
you want to get a third wife.
That, and people come after you. People want a piece of it. People want to copy you, right? That's all the things that happen. So he was making money because of Mr. Bill Alexander. Well, in comes this other family. It's Annette. I'll have to look up the lady's name. I wrote it down. Annette and her husband, which I'll look in my notes. They were going through a rough time. Their 25-year-old son died in a car accident. Annette went into a depression. The only thing that would pull her out was watching Bob Ross paint. So the husband said, you know what? I'm going to drive you to a live class and let's see. Well, they saw the potential in Bob Ross because they said people automatically loved him. They were buying things that they probably wouldn't have bought otherwise because of Mr. Bob Ross.
Paint supplies, whatever.
It's people will spend their money if they like the person selling it.
Of course.
Right?
They're buying you.
They're buying you. So here's what happens. Annette and her husband decide we can make money long term after Bob Ross. Let's try to get him away from Mr. Alexander, get him to sign a bunch of contracts, and we'll put him under our wing. So little by little, Bob starts working more for them, but Mr. Alexander's fine. He's like, yeah, make your money. Here's the thing. Well, so then this other family decides to start taking some of the trademark stuff. Like when Mr. Alexander was painting, he had a phrase called like magic white. It was a style of painting. He would use white. So Bob started using it, but then they changed it to like lightning white, right? It's like that kind of stuff, taken little by little. So it's a little fuzzy, right?
Right.
In the meantime, the Alexanders understand about television, marketing, and so they start really hitting up PBS. And of course, it takes off and he gets more stations. So that's when they decide to take the break, call it Bob Ross. It used to be Bob Ross with Bill Alexander. Well, by the time Bill Alexander knew what was happening, because this is before social media, right? You could do a lot of things without people knowing what you were doing. They're trademarking everything, and they had Bob sign a bunch of contracts that he was unfamiliar with. So when Bob finds out he has cancer, his second wife dies of cancer 2 months before he gets remarried, and 2 months later he dies. So he's now got this new third wife trying to deal with all this stuff because while he was dying of cancer, Annette and her husband realized they needed to really take all future sales of his image, of his everything, so they could make money. Now, at this point, Steve, their son, is an adult, and Mr. Ross has a half brother. So he changes his will to says, my wife, my son, my half brother, they get everything. They get my image, they get everything, right? He puts it in his will. I don't know how it got lost along the way, but somehow the brother-in-law, the will was read to him and he didn't understand about all of this stuff. So he kept it to himself. So so Annette and her husband ran with it. So they were taking credit for all of Bob's images, right? They did a Mountain Dew commercial with a CGI thing, right? They did that because Bob Ross he's very popular, right? And so they were taking all of his images. It got so bad that this couple, they've eventually died, but now their daughter's in charge and she's taken all the money, which is so horrible. So everything's in court now because basically here's what happened. Bob Ross was a hard drinking guy. And once he settled down with his second wife, I guess they said he had infidelity issues.
What?
Mr. Bob Ross.
He was taking a class. He's trying to get better.
I know. And you know how he got his famous fro? He used to wear his hair slicked back with a gel.
Go on.
And then, right? And then when he started painting, he needed a more relaxed style so he didn't have to fuss with his hair. And a hairdresser in 1978
you don't put that on your head on purpose.
Yes.
He got a perm?
Yes. It's a perm. They gave him a perm and she said, this is easy and uncomplicated. And so he stuck with it because that's not even his hair. It was a perm. I thought it was his hair. Who would do that? Who would do that?
Oh, I've said that already. Yes.
No. So anyway, so he still had some issues with drinking and with infidelity and stuff, but
he's trying to change.
He's trying to take care of his family with his will and everything. And according to this story that I read,
he died before she killed him.
He spent the last months of his life fighting these people really hard, trying to get his image back. And so now everything is still in court. They're still fighting. And his son, Steve, is now trying to compensate, because we're talking millions of dollars worth of his image. Who would have thought? When I think of Bob Ross, I think of that sweet guy that painted, and isn't it lovely? And I guess you never think of the backstory, right? You never think what it took to get to that point. Clearly with Bob Ross, he did some work. You don't just show up becoming the magic painting guy that everybody talks about and dresses up for Halloween because you're so well known.
So what's your attitude about him now that he's been found to be a cheater?
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't love it, but also the only story I know is the story I read. So I don't know the details anymore. Then yes, of course, I'm sad that he was a philanderer, but I think the bigger picture is he really got taken advantage of, and that's really unfortunate for anybody. Nobody should do that to anybody.
The Beatles had problems too. This is a very often told tale. Beatles had problems getting their music back. And
why? So, what happened?
Because they signed contracts in the beginning, this, that, and the other thing. They didn't know anything about publishing. They didn't know anything about. They just thought that if we sell a record, we'll get a dime, you know. Yeah. And they had all sorts of problems. And then, of course, famously, Michael Jackson buys the Beatles catalog.
Yes, I do remember that. That was quite controversial.
Well, it was funny because apparently it came up for sale. You know, the people that owned the catalog. I mean, it called me crazy, but the Beatles didn't own their own music, so it came available for $20 million. Right? I was just oddly enough, I just listened to Paul McCartney talk about this the other day on YouTube. 20 million. So he could have bought it. He clearly could have bought it for 20 million. But he says, you know, this is really our music, mine and John's. So he calls Yoko and says, hey, it's come to my attention, we can buy our music back for 20 million. Let's just do it. You throw in 10, I throw 10, call it a day. So she says, oh, I think we can get it for 5. All right. So while they're this and that, Michael Jackson throws 50 million at it, buys the catalog, done and done.
Money
and now,
really...
and that's why you hear Beatles songs every now and again on a Sony commercial or whatever it is.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy what money can do?
And you know what? To his credit, Paul McCartney still says nice things about Michael Jackson. He's talented. He's this and this. He should, instead of saying that guy, because he's the one that clued Michael Jackson in about all royalty and publishing and all of that stuff.
So what everybody complained about Yoko in the beginning, I guess, was true then. She's not that great of a human.
I'm not saying she, from the quick little story that Paul McCartney tells, I don't know that identifies Yoko as being a bad person. Maybe just not smart, but not as bad.
Is Yoko Ono not wealthy from her marriage?
I'm sure she is, absolutely.
I would think 5 million, 10 million is not that big of a deal to her.
To buy the catalog, this is 20 years ago they bought, whatever.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was having this conversation with my brother, Jimmy, about music has to go through a value curve, right? Where the Beatles are very popular, but now the value of that catalog, let's call it $100 million, whatever the hell it is, right? Yeah. But all of a sudden in 50 years, it's not going to have that value. I mean, are the Beatles going to be relevant? I mean, they seem to be relevant for the people coming up, but every year that goes by, there's a added value, and then it starts to diminish at some point. Yeah. I don't give a shit about Rudy Valley in 1922. Yeah.
I guess that's true.
I just said it's true.
I'm supporting your thoughts.
It wasn't wholehearted. You didn't have all your chips in on that. You said, I guess it's true.
How are you still single, sir? You're so
Look at that. I'll argue about anything.
Speaking of music, did you know that the Eurovision singing competition was Saturday night?
Yes, I somebody posted that on the Facebook, and do you know who won?
Yes, of course. I was obsessed with it. I'm in the middle of watching all the songs because I'm just so curious, to see what each country felt was good enough to represent their country. So Italy won.
Yeah, I saw none of it. Was did the right country win?
I'm in the middle, so I don't know. But what I
Oh.
found fascinating is, how different it all is, right? Because this is important. Well, whoever sings has to be good enough to him. And it was a actual rock band, which is fascinating because they said rock and roll hasn't won in a long time. And I think Italy, I wrote it in my notes, Italy's won a few different times. So it was, cool for them. But what I found fascinating, Tom, is did you read about the fact that I didn't understand how the voting went? So judges vote and then the public votes. So Italy would not have won without the public. The public is what pushed Italy
the
over
judge
the
was
top.
judges tend not to be very popular based.
Right. So the judges were picking other countries, but so I wrote all this down because I thought it was fascinating. I highly recommend you watching though, because all the acts were very different, and I found some to be, in my humble opinion, very boring and not even sure why. Like if you're in a competition with 26 acts from all these European countries, I would think you would want it to be interesting, not just someone standing there singing a song. Because I don't care how good you sing. Shouldn't you be interesting?
No doubt about it. This is why people with a slice of heritage from Luxembourg claim Luxembourg heritage so I can work, be on their Olympic basketball team,
Yes.
Because
yes.
Luxembourg can give a shit about Olympic basketball, but
right.
I'm an American, but I've got this much Luxembourg and I can go play there. That's why I'm surprised when you're saying this is the early 50s Olympics where people didn't make that move. So now if you're talented, you're going to check your genealogy to see if I got a little piece of, Portugal in me where I can go and crush it in Portugal because I can't do it in the US.
And here's the other thing they did, Tom. They canceled it last year because of the virus, and whoever was eligible last year, they had to retry out and change their music. They were not allowed to audition with the music they had used.
That's crazy. Why is that? Why get the double penalty?
I don't know, but I thought, keeps everybody on their toes, I guess. I don't really know.
That'd be brutal.
But did you know that some countries got 0 votes from the judges and 0 votes from the public?
Who got what?
0. There were countries that got 0 votes from the judges and 0 votes from the public.
Wow.
How much does that hurt? You do all this hard work and you get 0. Now, here's what they said. The UK got 0 votes from judges and the public, and they say it's because of what's going on politically there.
Yes.
Which, it probably is. So it's probably not against the singers. But like, for example, Germany only got 3 votes from the judges.
How many judges are there, darling? Do we know?
You know what? I don't know. I'm sorry to tell you. I don't know.
If there's 100 judges, that's a lot. If there's 7, that's.
I'm sorry to tell you, I didn't write that down. But like, for example, Italy got 524 votes.
From the judges or the public?
That's a combination of. No, it's got to just be the judges. It can't be the public. No, it's got to be both because that's how they won. They won. I read this 3 days ago. They won based on the votes from the public.
Thanks for considering bringing a bunch of half-baked notes and numbers to the show.
Dude, man, a lot's happened since I wrote this.
Paula needs to know how many judges, who voted for what.
I'll put it in the notes. But here's the wide discrepancy. Italy wins with 524. At the bottom is the UK with 0. And then right above that's Germany with 3. So you see the big discrepancy between the numbers. And it's funny because when they go to vote, they ask them why. Like each judge said, yeah. So that's interesting too, to hear like, a little bit of the backstory. So just Google it. It's available to watch all the singers. It's fascinating because they're all very different. I'm only at like a third of the way through. And so far it's a lot of very sexy women singing and dancing.
Hello.
Which at first I was like, what? And I thought, I get it, because really sex does sell, and it is very sexy to have a beautiful woman sing.
Oh, so it's a TikTok sponsored by.
you know, it could be considered a TikTok maybe, but again, the rock band won, and they just did. I watched them because they were the winners. They weren't fancy. They just did classic rock and roll stuff, you know, playing the guitar, banging on the drums. So
yeah. A buddy of mine described it as a highly financed and produced amateur contest.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Bunch of couple hacks, open micers. But you know, they get the camera moves, you know, they come in and come out. Like American Idol started making everybody look great because rather than just standing there with a steady mic, they used to, hey, let's give these guys the Donnie and Marie treatment, you know, swing the cameras around, let's get a feel, come in, boom, okay, we're bringing in, okay, push in, pull back, zoom, boom, mic, here we go, right? Cue the lights, here we go, get the starlights going. Well, I should do the shows. Come on.
We talked about this. Did you watch the Will Ferrell film where he does like?
I did see that.
Okay. So it's the people I've watched so far kind of remind me of like that. Like, yeah, they seem kind of amateurish, but at the same time, how fun for each country to have this moment on stage.
Absolutely.
And vote for their people. So if people haven't watched it, I recommend it. It's just fascinating to see the different countries being represented.
Yeah, I want to do it. I saw how many countries do they have? 50 or so?
I think there were only 26 participants this year.
Oh, 26. All right. So
yeah.
So maybe you and I could check to see if we have a little heritage from Romania.
Something. I would do it just because it's a riot. I don't even know what the people win. Do you know what they win other than the notoriety?
I would guess they win a contract and some money, but that's just me sitting in.
I don't really know. I have no idea. But super fun. I've been hogging and taking over. I know we started talking about HSN, but did you have a specific topic you want to talk about?
Yeah, don't overdo it. I'm doing high intensity interval training on the rowing machine.
Yes.
And I've thrown my back out.
No.
Not bad. It's a 2%er.
But still.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to row today. Hopefully I can play basketball tomorrow.
There's no way.
I was loving it. I said, this is great. It's 10 minutes, 30 seconds as hard as you can go, 30 seconds easy. And you do that 10 times. I said, your heart's way up. And I'm like pulling on the thing. I think maybe I've overdone it. And then I was stiff all day yesterday. But I'm very careful today.
Oh, no. All right, I will send you the guy that I follow on Instagram that shows you back stretching exercises.
Please.
Yeah, so you can do that. Before we wrap, just real quickly, I want to ask you, I had this thought today.
Don't set me up. Do not set my ass up on some crazy question.
It's too late. I'm doing it. We're both at least 60 years old, and
soon. Yes, ma'am.
We've reached a point in our life where, a lot of people that are younger or in their 30s think 60 is very far away and very old, right?
Right.
If I was in my 30s and someone said, hey, go ask this 60-year-old, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here, But now that we're there, my question for you is, have you turned into the old person you thought you would be?
I have not. My dance card is pretty full. I'm still doing comedy, home shopping, walking, this, that. I do see the end. I've seen my boys fall off, like not playing basketball anymore, right?
Yeah.
So Steve and I, by the way, we moved our open mic from Silver King to the Soggy Bottom Brewery. We're going to be doing that at the end of June.
Where's Soggy Bottom Brewery?
It's a nicer location. I mean, I love Tarpon Springs, but the brewery was kind of tucked away. It was just a brewery. It wasn't even really a bar.
Yeah.
So Soggy Bottom is in the middle of downtown. Dunedin. Dunedin is very popular.
Easier for people to get to for sure. I know
it's going to be easier, and they'll have a built-in audience. There's people there every night. On a Thursday night, they're going to have 20, 30 people just by having dinner there. Just having a built-in audience.
Oh, that's great.
Whereas nobody goes to the brewery without being purposeful. You might get a couple of pool players, but that's about it.
Oh, that's great. Well, good. So we'll keep promoting that. So I was just thinking about being old, and I thought, you know what? I'm not the old person. If someone would have said at age 60, I would be doing what I'm doing and feeling the way I'm feeling, I wouldn't have bought it, because I would have thought, at 60, you're pretty much done. And I mean, in my headspace, I feel like I still got some stuff to do, and I still feel very engaged.
You got to have, I think you need to have projects. My brother is 72.
Yeah.
My older brother, 10 years older than I am. and he still works Habitat for Humanity.
Okay,
He's in good shape. He's,
yeah,
well, he's still
nice.
banging it out. He's working with a purpose, and he remarried. His wife tragically died 20 years ago, but he remarried, and his
Okay.
wife's a little bit older, but she's super active. They like to travel. COVID shut everybody down, but now they get in the car and they'll drive.
You
That's
know,
funny.
I was going to say, by the time I'm in my 70s, in the back of my mind, I'm imagining that I'm going to be living in a jungle somewhere. I'll have no one around, and I'll just be taking care of wild animals. I'm going to be one of those kind of ladies where I'm just going to disappear one day and no one will ever hear from me again.
Why is it that the women's fantasy is to own a lot of land with dogs running all over the place?
Because it's nothing but love. No one's going to hurt you or murder you or rape you or boss you around.
Yeah.
If it's
that's a common fantasy.
Yeah, because it's nothing but love.
But usually not cats. It's dogs. Dogs in the outside running around. Could be. And the cats. You had cats inside the house.
I'm imagining sloths. I would like to take care of sloths.
My buddy Andy runs a wildlife rescue, and he's got all sorts of animals, everything: raccoons, kangaroos, zebras. It's nuts.
Where is it at?
He was 20 minutes from the ranch, probably 20 minutes from here.
Can I?
Paula was there the other day. I think.
I want to go work for him.
Yeah.
At age 70, is it weird to be applying for jobs? Like, would anybody say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea?
You'd have to have a very specific skill. It's funny because my brother Jimmy, who's 2 years younger than me, he got bought out. It's like we're downsizing. We're going to offer 50 people an opportunity to get bought out and retire early.
Yeah.
Or we're going to fire you. So it's your choice because we're tired of paying, these high salaries. So they want to get rid of that because why? I got a guy for 150. I can get another guy for 65.
Yeah.
That's salaries so much dominates the cost of doing business. So he's looking for piece together, get him to 65. So he's going to try to figure something out for a couple 3 years.
Wow.
It's very common. I had another buddy that all these guys get fired in their late 50s as they're coming into their, as the younger generation wants a piece in corporately, like we're paying these guys a lot of money. Cut loose we can.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see, but I was just curious because when you think of an old person, when you are that person people think of as old, it hits you different.
Yeah. I mean, but I see my brother who keeps in very good shape, but 72 is old. He's not.
Right. Yeah.
It is what it is.
I mean, I don't know how to wrap for me, but I've envisioned that I'm just going to go off. I've done my time and I'm out.
Yeah, but you might have 40 years to go.
I might. I don't know, but I know that I want to go on my own terms, and I want more peace in my life.
It's funny. We thought about that with the cat. We had a cat, Tabu, when I was in the 60s.
Yeah.
That just kind of wandered off. It was always an outside cat, but one day just wandered off. Was getting older, just wandered off. Everybody kind of like, well, she just went somewhere to the elephant graveyard.
Yeah, that's how I'm planning it.
I'm gonna ask. Do you have? I talked about this before. The St. Peter thing, asking St. Peter questions at the pearly gates.
Well, we've talked about it, but it's
not something you were familiar with, right?
Yes, I'm somewhat familiar with it.
Because I throw it out every night. Some people are going, "What are you talking about? You're in. There's no St. Peter. What are you talking about? Asking St. Peter's questions. What are you talking about?" So some people, even in my family, have a reference, and some people don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I feel like it's a common kind of a joke that everybody talks about, right? Going to St. Peter. Bless you. I feel
One more time.
Okay, do the double C's. I have to say 5 times in a row. Bless
I get that from my mother. It's 2.
You got to do what you got to do. Well,
yeah. Okay. I want to ask St. Peter what happened to Tabu. Did she get hit by a car, or did she just go off to the graveyard?
That's a legitimate question. It would be good to know. Well, I'm Melinda McKinsey.
I'm Tom Wise.
You've been unpacking some shit with us today. The show didn't go any way we thought it would, but that's okay. Tom and I haven't talked in a while, so we have some catching up to do.
We have some catching up, and it's like, you know, when you're at the airport and you hear somebody having a conversation with something. Oh,
yes.
You're listening in. Here, you're hearing both sides of the conversation, whether you like it or not.
That's exactly right. Hunker down.
And you could see why I think she's crazy.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, here goes. I'm not looking at Jesus. I'm looking at the stop recording button. And have a good day. There's another one in the can.